everyone. Today we are going to be looking at line plots with fractions. This is part of our math lesson for 12-6. So we've got to begin with, what is a line plot?
A line plot is a way to organize data on a number line.
Steps to make a line plot. First, draw a number line. Show a scale based on the data.
So you can see she must have recorded the length of her crayons, and these are some of her results.
Next, write a title for the line plot. Finally, mark a dot for each data value.
Now you can see just by looking at this that means there was a crayon that was 1 3/4 inches long. There was a crayon that was 2 inches long, and there were 2 of those crayons. Then there was a crayon that measured 2 1/4 inches, and she had 2 of those here. Each of these dots represents a crayon that is measuring this length. Okay, so the next one was 2 inches within 2/4 of an inch, and there was 1 crayon. Then the next one is 2 3/4, and that shows that there were 4 crayons that were that length. Now we're going to look at this, try it, and explain it a little bit further. Here's the explanation.
Anna has 1 crayon that is 1 3/4 inches long. Anna has 2 crayons that are 2 inches long.
Okay, does everyone see that?
Anna has 2 crayons that are 2 1/4 inches long.
So each dot represents a crayon that is the length shown on that scale on the bottom there. Notice how these fractions are in order. 1 3/4, 2, which is the same as saying 1 4/4, okay, because 4/4 is the same as 1 whole. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 1/4, 2 2/4, 2 3/4. They did not need to go on because they did not have any pencils or crayons, I should say, that were anywhere longer than 2 3/4. That's why it did not go to 3. Same with 1. That's why you don't see anything before that, because no crayons were the length shorter than 1 3/4. You only show the lengths between the values that you recorded.
Which crayon length does Anna have the most of? Explain.
And you can kind of see this has the longest number, has the most number of dots.
She has the most of the 2 3/4 inch crayon. There are 4 dots above the 2 3/4 inch mark on the number line, more than there are for any other crayon. Now you know how you can make and use line plots.
Now that you saw how to make a line plot, a brief overview from our program, this video clip is excellent with showing how to answer questions about a line plot. And you'll find this useful in answering some questions later on in your activities.
In this lesson, you'll learn how to answer questions about line plots. The Fangor Forest Rangers collected their information about the animals in the park and made a line plot. The numbers below stand for the length in inches of the animal footprints. Each X represents one animal. Which footprint length was measured most often? The numbers below represent the footprint lengths. One way to tell which footprint length was measured most often is to see which number has the most X's above it. Let's take a look. 1.5 inches because it has the most X's. Let's count to make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 animal footprints with a length of 1.5 inches. This is more than any other footprint length. So the footprint length that was measured the most often was 1.5 inches long. Ranger Rogers has a question. Are more of the animal footprint lengths less than 1 inch or more than 1 inch? We can count the X's that are less than 1 inch. Then we can count the X's that are more than 1 inch to see which group of footprints has the most X's. We can look at the parts of the line plot to quickly see which side has more X's. Here we can see that more animal footprint lengths are more than 1 inch long. There are 6 animals with footprint lengths less than 1 inch, There are 9 animals with footprint lengths more than 1 inch long. So, more animal footprint lengths are more than 1 inch long. What is the longest animal footprint length the rangers measured? Let's look at the numbers below to see. The largest number on the line plot is 2 1/4. But there were no animal footprint lengths that were measured with that length. This means we can look at the next largest number that has at least one X above it. The longest animal footprint length the rangers measured was 2 inches long. One of the rangers forgot to enter some data. They measured 3 animals with a length of 2 1/4 inch footprints. How can we fill out this information on the line plot?
This will change things.
Well, we need to look at the 2 1/4 inch part of the line plot first. The rangers measured 3 animals, and each X represents 1 animal. So there should be 1, 2, 3 X's above 2 1/4. So we can add 3 X's above 2 1/4 to show that the rangers measured 3 animals with a length of 2 1/4 inch footprints. In this video, you learned how to answer questions about line plots.
The next step is taking what you just learned and applying it to creating your own line plots with data. So you can see right here, Sandy measured pencils using a ruler. The results are below. Draw a line plot to show the data. So here is the results of Sandy and what she did measuring her pencils. You can see she had 3 1/4, 3 3/4, 3 1/4, 4, and 3 2/4. So if I gave you like a bag of pencils and I said, okay, let's just measure some of these, obviously everything's going to come in at different lengths because you're just taking them and recording what you get. All right, so now we're taking this information and we're going to put it into a line plot. The first step is to write the title, and I can get the title right from my data. So we called this lengths of Sandy's pencils. Right? Complete the fractions on the number line or on the line by deleting the letters and replacing them with numbers from the data above. Okay, well, one thing I'm going to look here is that there is a whole number of 3 and a whole number of 4, and I can see 1, 2, 3, 4. So that must mean my denominator is going to be 4. And I look over here, perfect. So I'm going to continue this, which would be 3, 3, and see how I delete it, and 1/4. My next one would be 3 and, what do you think? You got it, 2/4. 3 and 3/4. And I don't need to do 3 4/4 because that's the same as saying 4. Now I'm going to take this dot and drag it according to each of these pencils. Each dots will represent the length of a pencil. So 3 1/4, I take it and I drag it there. 3 3/4, so I find 3/4 and I put it above it. 3 1/4 again. 4 and 3 2/4. Now I can kind of evaluate this and say to myself, okay, over here on my data, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do I have a total number of 5 dots here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. So I have all of my data here onto my line plot, and I did it correctly. I can also take a look and see, wow, I see that there are 3 1/4 length pencils were her most common, and she had 2 of those that were that long. The longest pencil was 4 inches. All right, so then you'd move on to the next one, and you can see this has a lot more of the data that you have to plot, okay? And you're looking at Monica and her friends, and they measured the lengths of their shoes. Ooh, that's a good one. So if we were in school, we would all be measuring each other's shoes. And what you could see here is I would be writing this down on a piece of paper. So I suggest that you do the same too, because this is going to be hard to keep track of. Make sure that you have done all these, count them up, and make sure your graph also reflects that. Then as you move on, this too has quite a bit of data here collecting, and this is for Max's collection of his toy cars. Same thing, you've got to set this up just like I did, and I added one more question below that. Okay, and then same with this one too, except this one is even longer of a number line. think about that as you're doing it. And the last one is going to be answering some questions based on this story problem and the data and this line plot that was already completed for you. Okay, if you have any questions, please reach out on Google Classroom. If you need to rewatch this entire video clip or parts of it that would be useful to you, go for it. Have fun, and we'll talk soon.